People would say, some people are saying, have said, that it stretches credulity to suggest that people at the top of ITV wouldn't have known about your relationship with this young man. It was pretty well known that the two of you were close, and people had specifically raised this with the bosses of ITV. And people would say it's quite a short journey from that to saying they should have done a proper and more thorough investigation and they should have got to the truth. Isn't that a reasonable thing for people to say, given we're talking about abuse of power potentially, given we're talking about workplace culture in an era where workplace culture is under the spotlight as never before?
Yes, yeah.
They should have, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And you've been very clear about something else which you want to correct, which is, let me ask you directly, did you speak to anyone at all at ITV about moving this young man onto another programme?
Absolutely, categorically not. He was a really good colleague, runner, like very good. And so he applied to go to Loose Women and got the job entirely on his own merits. And I can remember him coming to me and saying, mate, I'm going to Loose Women. And I said, that's fantastic. That's
so the
brilliant.
suggestion that ITV moved him to solve a problem that they had festering on this morning is untrue.
I do not believe there is any truth in that at all.
Okay.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
So here we see, this is the accusation that something's going on behind the scenes and that it's incredible that there couldn't be something going on. They wouldn't know. So his breathing rate goes up, his barriers are increased. Now, Mark, he's protecting a joint. I'll let you talk about that, but he's grabbing his wrist and he's milling his fingers and adapting, releasing nervous energy. Now, we haven't seen that up to now. This is a polished guy who has done this forever, and he knows how to hide all that, but he can't seem to here. And then if you see his head is leaned back, I think the reason his head is leaned back is because his body's gotten smaller. He's turtling, and his head is leaned back so he can do data intake. But he does confirming nods as he is reading the reasons, and as he's read the reasons why this must be a big deal. And then he does a breathy yes. His brow is up. He does a nervous short stroke head movement in confirmation. Yeah, it shouldn't have happened. Then he goes to a great head movement as an illustrator for absolutely not, which sounds believable because the cadence and tone matches movement. I think he was, when you hear him dancing around, he was a really good, listen to that pause, boop, 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 changing words. What did he call him? He called him a colleague, and then he had to find a new word, a runner. I think he was dangerously close to feeling awkward with his wording, and his brain went into squirreling the road trying to figure out the right words not to entrap himself in some kind of wrong language. Not that I think he's lying, just I think he made a stupid mistake in saying he was a good dude, and people might perceive him as something other than what he was trying to say. Chase, what do you got?
Yeah, totally agree. And we learn super early to suppress stuff. In elementary school, we hide career aspirations if we want to do something ridiculous. Boys are taught crying is weakness. Girls get taught they have to always be nice and agreeable no matter what. We all get taught at light speed to hide our insecurities. These are typically a few things: a fear of rejection, trying to model adult behavior, wanting to please adults, feeling like nobody else feels the same as us. And finally, and I think most important, is avoiding ridicule. So imagine you're kind of feeling something deep inside, like maybe an attraction towards the same sex, but your society's rule book says that's not part of the game. Or you might start hiding that, stuffing it down, but thinking that you're shutting it down. Stuffing it down is different than shutting it down. But we confuse that, especially when we're younger. Here's where things get really rough. So hiding who you truly are can brew up this incredible storm inside of a person that's a little bit of shame, maybe some anxiety, but it's more like an acid. And over time, it just eats away at happiness and your self-esteem, your ability to just be present. And depression is just almost a guarantee at this point. And here's the kicker. Without understanding where all this is coming from, because we're not cognizant of all of this stuff yet, without seeing that invisible rule book, people are just scratching their head, feeling all of this depression or pain or whatever, and they can't figure out why. It's like fighting a person that you can't see. So we need to, I wanted to shine a light on these social norms and folkways, because I think understanding them is 100% the first step in just dealing with that corrosive shame and just healing from the inside out. I hope Phillip gets a chance to even see this. Greg, sorry, Mark.
Yeah. So I think in my mind, what you're hinting at there, Chase, is suppression lying? If I suppress something, consciously or maybe unconsciously, is it the same as barefaced lying? Because I think what everybody's going to be, who certainly know this situation, certainly the majority of the British public who are watching this, are going to go, hang on, we got somebody here who has most likely lied continually to his family. Maybe the family knew and they have suppressed that themselves. Maybe they kind of knew, maybe they knew entirely. And it's been a rule that nobody talks about what's really going on in his sexuality and relationships. So he's potentially lied to his family. He's lied to Holly, somebody he says is his on-screen sister. Holly seems incredibly upset by this. It seems, maybe quite genuine that she's going, hang on, he's lied to me once, twice, three, many, many times now. So that's upsetting. And so can we ourselves actually see if this person is lying or not, or being deceptive or not, because potentially he is brilliant at it? I can't answer that question to you, because what we're doing is looking at the evidence that we have, looking at what we see, and giving you our best commentary, our best analysis of that for you to add to your intelligence system so you can make better choices for you. I have my own ideas, but just like you, my intelligence is limited. I don't have all the information. I'm just always trying to get more of the information and analyze that. Well, look, here's what I say is that he says, I do not, when it comes to, is there something rotten in ITV? Is there something up? Are they trying to protect people? He says, I do not believe there is any truth in that at all. Well, believing that isn't the case is not the same as knowing there's no truth to that. He doesn't say he knows there's no truth to that. He says he doesn't believe. And belief is not accurate all the time. Feels very accurate all of the time. Otherwise, how would you get on with life? But it doesn't mean your beliefs are absolutely accurate. One last thing on this, Chase, that I think you're hinting towards, which is when a code is broken, who must be saved? Who is at the top of the hierarchy, who must be saved at all costs? I think what the British public are going is did ITV try to save Phillip at the top of that hierarchy and fail to do that? And now, is he trying to save the top of the hierarchy of ITV? Because ultimately, they hold his career in their hands. They are the people who could say, you know what, the British people forgive you, Phil. Come back, Phil. All is forgiven. Let's start your career again. The government have said, bring me the head of ITV. And it seems like the head of ITV is still attached to their body. And so it seems like it would be unwise for Phillip to throw anybody under the bus who's in the hierarchy of ITV. I don't believe there's any truth to that, he says. Well, that would be important for him, I think, to say that at this point, because here is somebody who clearly has worked incredibly hard on their career and wouldn't just want to give it up for just a moment. He says all it was a moment. He was under extreme psychological stress. We need to think about the blameless victim over here, and it was just a moment in my life. At the same time as I think there's some sincerity in what he says, there's some damn good spin in that as well, some class spin going on. Scott, what you got on this one?
I think that Bill is a great, not just a great interview, but I think he knows how to do this because he knows this is a really important part, and there is zero pushback on this. That part where he says, yeah, and it's whispered. Man, that's he's showing I'm wide open. I'm like, you can ask me anything you want to do. You want to ask me, here's the way things lay out. He's not hiding anything, I don't think, here. And we're seeing another example of what I call those confirmation nods. A lot of times people say when someone's doing this, but they're saying yes, here's what we went and did, whatever it was, or this happened. It's like, I can't believe this happened, man. But here's what happened. And you'll see the words, they'll go in time and almost lockstep with the words they're talking about. Sometimes they don't, but they're really big when they're like that. But when they're really small, those are the ones you want to look out for when it's the opposite of what they're saying. Like if they say, "Did you do that?" and they go, "No," and you can barely see that head moving up and down. And that's from Paul Ekman. Those are the ones you want to pay attention to. If they say yes, and that head goes back and forth just a little bit, that's what you're looking for. If they go, "Yes, I did it," when they're shaking their head no, that's a confirmation of, "Yes, I did it. Listen to me. I know it's unbelievable, but listen to, I did it." That's the difference in those things. I think that's really important because I read a lot of the comments, and quite often the comments people say, "Oh, he shook his head when he was saying yes. He's shaking his head no, so he's lying." That's true, it's a cue to look for in some situations. But when it's really small, that's when you can pretty much call that and go, "Oh, we need to look at that and group that with see if there are any clusters around that and start making decisions." Because we're not seeing one thing and making a decision or two or three things and going, this means that. We're taking the whole thing and looking at it from the beginning to the end, and then look at these clusters within that big picture. A lot of people ask about that as well. So that's what's happening there when we're pointing things out. Keep in mind, we're looking for more than just one thing. And you'll hear us say that. If there's just one, you can say, "I don't know, it was just the one shoulder shrug with nothing else around it. So it makes me think he's not being deceptive. He's just unsure." But if we saw several other things with that, then we say that might possibly be deception. We never go, "That's for dang sure deception." We say that indicates, or that looks like it could be deception. Okay. And Mark, so Phil he's really famous over there, right?
Oh, huge. Yeah, he would be, Regis Philby, kind of not the same, not the same by any stretch of the imagination. But I mean, he is the morning talk show, magazine show host. And if there's an award ceremony or there's something to host, he's first in line to host that. He's a national icon until recently, universally and very much loved.
And they don't like him now because of this?
Because they fear that this could be another Savile.
Oh,
now I'm not
right.
saying that they think he's going to have the same crimes or even crime like Savile. Right. Okay,
is there a pattern?
But the British public feeling cheated and lied to, and we understand why he suppresses. Chase has been very clear about the possibility of why he suppresses this, but that doesn't mean that the British public are not wholly disappointed in who they've given so much love to.
Oh, okay, I got you.
That's the issue, and so there's that worry of has there been a succession of improper relationships like this? Did you send pictures to a minor? Tell us you didn't. Say you didn't. Mm-hmm. And we're not. It's from what I've heard, we're not hearing that information.
One of those tape replays.
People would say, some people are saying, have said, that it stretches credulity to suggest that people at the top of ITV wouldn't have known about your relationship with this young man. It was pretty well known that the two of you were close, and people had specifically raised this with the bosses of ITV. And people would say it's quite a short journey from that to saying they should have done a proper and more thorough investigation and they should have got to the truth. Isn't that a reasonable thing for people to say, given we're talking about abuse of power, potentially? Given we're talking about workplace culture, in an era where workplace culture is under the spotlight as never before?
Yes, yeah.
They should have, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And you've been very clear about something else which you want to correct, which is, let me ask you directly, did you speak to anyone at all at ITV about moving this young man onto another programme?
Absolutely, categorically not. He was a really good colleague, runner, very good. And so he applied to go to Loose Women, and and got the job entirely in his own merits. And I can remember him coming to me and saying, mate, I'm going to Loose Women. I said, that's fantastic. That's
so the
brilliant.
suggestion that ITV moved him to solve a problem that they had festering on this morning is untrue.
I do not believe there is any truth in that at all.
Okay.
He's still doing a better job than Anthony Weiner.
Oh man,
Well,
Weiner
your
was
dog
the
could probably do a better
worst,
job.
man.
Yeah.
That guy was what? But I do use it now, and every deck I have where I'm talking about someone who is just bald-faced lying. That's the guy I use. I use all those things where they come out and ask him a question. He'd go, "It's like if I threw a pie." You know, you ever heard him tell that story where if someone threw a pie, he would just keep talking. He's the worst, man. The worst.
He's awful.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, Greg, I'll give you that when you're into it. If you like this video, get the full body language breakdown and analysis on our main channel by clicking this video right here.